Hello.
Hey, hey,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
I can't hear you, but that's entirely possible. I have you muted. Hang on.
Oh, I'm okay at
Unmute.
this end.
There you go. Now I can hear you. I've got kids who are working together in a group, so I have multiple tabs going.
I don't know how teachers do it. You guys, so many balls in the air at once.
That's okay. They're heading off to lunch in like 2 minutes. Someday I'd like to actually see you in person. We're meeting a lot virtually these days.
After things ease up here.
All right. Let's see if I can hear your piano. I know I can hear your voice. Can I
Oh,
hear
you
your
want a little
piano?
sound
Play
check?
something.
See if some of the viewers, some of our students, our friends today may know this. I'll use it as a sound check though. Curious. I know I put in the comments, save it for questions and
I
chat.
want to know if anybody knows it. I feel like
Yeah.
you should offer to mail out a CD. Not that the students will know what a CD is, but I feel like you should offer to mail out a CD to them if
Right.
they get the tune
Email
correct.
email an autographed MP3. Yeah, I should have said in I said earlier, keep the comments in the live chat for questions, and that's not to be tough on anybody. That's just so if there's a bunch of emojis or other things, then we might miss your question. But if we pose a name that tune sort of thing, like we may have just now, maybe if you know what tune it is, throw it in the comments.
All right, and I want to apologize to all the teachers out there who I accidentally emailed this morning the wrong link. I am still working on my report cards and have report card brain, so apologies. All right, so welcome to Music with Jim. This is Jim. I am Melissa. I am a grade 7 virtual teacher. Jim is a professional musician who we have conned into doing this for us.
I'm enjoying it.
And we looked at the music curriculum together and decided that we would jam in some information that was essential to the music curriculum that your students may or may not know, that you may or may not know. And the first thing I want you to talk about, Jim, is what is duration? What does duration mean?
One quick question. Just could we get the teachers who are logged in, maybe just say hi in the chat, because I'm not actually seeing a viewer count or anything on the YouTube
Wait,
feed.
okay, I can switch back to the other one and do that just a
Yeah,
sec.
I just want to make sure that we've
yeah.
got the folks with us.
Yes, there are a few teachers watching us. That's
Okay,
good.
cool. And the link thing was my fault.
And we're not talking to ourselves, so that's good.
Okay. I accidentally started live streaming last night. Had to come up with a new link, send it to Melissa to send out, and so that's really my doing. So, duration.
Duration.
I
What's
am
duration?
going to switch the screen a bit. Melissa will still be there. There she is in the corner. And this is partly so I can do this with this fancy software. Duration, the length of a note. If I hit the same note twice, Melissa, was the first one or the second one longer? I'll play it again. Thoughts?
The first one.
So
the first one because you held it down longer.
Yeah, I sustained the note. You're going to throw out some fancy words here. You don't have to remember all of them, but I sustained it longer. I made the note longer. It rang longer, you could say. So the two had different duration. The first one had a long duration, and the second one had a short duration. If you were doing the ta-ta, ti-ti-ta rhythm thing in your class, it might be the first one would be ta, ti, for example. I'm going to play a tune, and I am going to play the first three notes, and then I'm going to tell you very quickly a little bit about jazz and how I'm going to perform the tune and how jazz musicians tend to perform. But here's the first three notes of the melody I'm going to play, and let me know which of the three have the longest duration. One more time. First, second, or the last one.
Do you want me to answer for the viewing audience, or do you
Yeah.
want them to answer?
No, let's you answer. I think they'll all get it. I'm just demonstrating.
Okay, I'm going to go with number 3. Do,
That's
do,
correct.
do.
And that is the beginning of the song Misty. Look at me. And just very quickly, a little bit about what I do. Jazz musicians improvise a lot. Improvising is making stuff up. You can improvise solutions to problems. You can improvise comedy, if you've ever seen the show Whose Line Is It Anyway? And jazz musicians usually play a song, and this is put very simply, play a song once, go back to the beginning, improvise on the chords of that song. So it's the same music that the melody went with, but I'm going to make up my own melody, and then I'm going to come back in with the original melody and finish the song. So I'm going to demonstrate some of this. If you listen, you can hear that a lot of the notes are a lot longer than others, different durations. Look at me, I'm as helpless as a kitten up a tree, and I feel like I'm clinging to a cloud. I don't understand, I get misty, just holding your hand. Walk my way, and 1,000 violins begin to play, where there could be the sound of your hello. That music I hear, I get misty whenever you're near. You can say that you're leading me on, but that's just what I wanted you to do. Can't you see that I'm hopelessly lost? That's why I'm following you. On my own, would I wander through this wonderland alone, never knowing my right foot from my left, my hat from my glove? I get misty and too much in love. And that's the full song. Now I'm going to improvise. Can't you see that you're leading me on? But that's just what I wanted you to do. Can't you see that I'm hopelessly lost? That's why I'm following you. On my own, would I wander through this wonderland alone, never knowing my right foot from my left, my hat from my glove? I get misty and too much in love. I'm gonna put an ending on it. I get misty and too much in love. When I mentioned putting an ending on it, musicians would often call it a tag. I might finish the tune but say to the guys in my band, oh, tag it. Or I might say tag it with the last 4 bars, or they usually know depending on the tune. And a word you might find in music theory for a tag is a coda, which I believe Melissa knows what coda actually translates.
It means tail. I believe it is Latin or possibly Italian, but I feel like it's Latin for tail.
Yeah, and a tail would be the ending of a dog. So we've just taken like a dog. The song is a dog with no tail, and we stuck a tail on the end so that you know it's a dog. I don't know if that makes sense.
When you talk about the duration of a note, different notes, depending on how many beats it has, have different names.
Yes. Might you be talking about pitch? Is that
No, I'm talking about like whole notes. How many beats does a whole note have?
I thought you meant the notes of the scale.
No.
I just messed up our segue. We'll pretend that didn't happen. There's when you talk about ta, ta, ti, ti, ta, I believe those would be quarter notes and eighth notes. And the names are usually fractions because they refer to how much of one bar of music. Music is built in chunks. I like to call them
Sorry,
chunks.
I need to pause you
Yep.
to do a shout out to all of the students listening. See, fractions are important to learn. They do happen in real life, in cooking and in music.
And music makes it harder because they're named after, not harder in a good way. You get used to it pretty quick, but they're all named after how much of a bar of 4 beats it is. So if it's, you could tell me this, if I'm playing a bar of 4 beats, and a quarter note would be how much of that bar?
Okay, so if you were a Kit Kat and you had 4 pieces of chocolate,
Yep.
the quarter note would be 1 piece of the Kit Kat.
Right, it's a quarter of a bar. The thing you have to remember with music is if you change how many beats are in the bar, like if you play a waltz like pa pa, and we'll talk about that next class, it's still called a quarter note. You don't start calling it a third note. There's no third note. So
No, there's whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, and 32 notes. Is that how I say that?
30-second notes.
30-second
And
notes. Thank you.
there are if you're playing Flight of the Bumblebee, there are 64th notes and
Ooh, wow.
128th notes. Yeah, it goes on. And they get more and more little flags on the notes, so it can be pretty tricky to read at a certain point. So
You'll have to, well, definitely for my eyes, I would need way bigger eyes.
I would need
Okay, so
way more practice.
here's the segue. Here's the segue. In music,
Yeah.
the term pitch does not mean I am throwing a baseball at you.
It does not. There are songs about that, and that's how that all comes together. But in music, usually if you say pitch, you're talking about whether a note, how high or low a note is. I am going to play the beginning of a melody of my next example, and I'm going to play the first 2 notes, and you tell me if the second note is higher or lower than the first note. Am I going down or am I going up?
You are going down,
Yeah.
but I can also see your hand on the piano because aren't the notes on the piano arranged high to low?
Yeah, if I go to the left, they go lower in pitch, and if I go to my right, they go up in pitch. Piano is a really good instrument for learning music theory because you can see all the notes, and any one note is
So
only
play
one
your
key.
lowest piano key and your highest.
That's the lowest note. I'm not sure how it'll sound on computer speakers, but that sounds pretty clear.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
And then up here,
All right, so we have Barry White down there, and what? Freddie?
Mariah Carey at the
Mariah
very end
Carey
of the
up
tune,
there.
at a
Okay,
cadenza.
excellent.
Okay.
So pitch is how high or how low a note is. Do you happen to have a song that might demonstrate how high and how low a note is?
I can do the song that I already hinted at, so I think I spoiled that. I keep stepping on our jokes. The song I'm going to play, I'm going to play the beginning of it. I gave you the first 2 notes. I'm going to play the first line of the song, and I'm going to indicate pointing up and down and show you the shape, because the notes dropping in pitch and rising in pitch. And
Ooh,
they can also. Yeah.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
So that sounds like a game that you can play called Line Rider, and I did put an example of Line Rider in music in the slide deck if teachers want to show their students later.
Oh yeah, their slide deck has some Melissa's compiled some fantastic resources, and there's a lot of fun games in there too that have to do with what we're talking about today. Here's the first phrase of the song. I'll play it once. And if you recognize it right away, I'm curious to see if it comes up in the comments. Oh, let me change the screen to pitch. That would make more sense. That's the first line. And I'm going to indicate this time. I guess I got to do it this way so you can see. Melody's moving up and down, and at the beginning it's the same note 3 times, so I just kept pointing flat. I'm going to play this tune, and I'm going to move the pitch around. I'm going to start it with higher pitches, for sort of a pretty music box sort of sound, and then I'm going to lower the pitch for a more dramatic sound. You can really use changes in pitch to change the mood of a song. Now I'm going to lower the pitch, all of them. And raise it again. And even more.
I'll clap for you because
it really can change the mood of the song. There's all of these things that we're talking about today. If you change them, it can really have a real impact on how a song makes you feel.
All right, so pitch is how high or how low a note is. And that was a very dynamic playing of how you want to build a snowman. So that brings me to our next musical term, which is dynamics. Can you tell me, what do dynamics mean in music?
Well, to help myself, I put it there on the screen. Dynamics, simply put, louder and softer. You change the pitch, you're making the note a higher note or a louder note. You change the dynamics, you're making the notes louder or softer. And this is a big one for changing a tune, the mood of a tune. I think dynamics are the one that adds the most drama to performing a song.
So I feel like you should pull up a song that's like super dramatic.
Well, this one is from my own youth, and it's from a very odd character named Ozzy Osbourne, and he has a song called Crazy Train.
Which is what the classroom feels like some days, especially when you are teaching virtually. And any teachers out there remember this song? Any students know this song?
I think might be one of the tunes that comes up in online with memes and the TikTokery of the day, as we used to call it in olden times. This song is a real real rocker. It's the rock guitar, distortion pedal, power chords. I believe this is in the slide deck. I think there's links in the slide deck to all of the famous versions of the songs that we're using as examples today. And this I think this tune's a blast. But I'm going to play it with an acoustic piano sound with my digital piano here. And I am going to play it with a lot more changes in dynamics than the original had. The original has some, but it's a rock song, so it's going to be louder than what I'm going to do. And I think you'll see how the mood changes when I change the dynamics. This is a soft dynamic. A little bit louder. And then the verse starts. I'm going to take it down again. louder. And softer again. Now the same melody, louder. Softer. Even softer. Now, if you're like me, I think you'll find that anytime the dynamics changed, the mood changed. I also changed the pitch a bit and would take the melody up a little bit higher for that ending, like I did with Do You Want to Build a Snowman? And yeah, the dynamics, we should touch on how you would know to play them if you're reading a piece of music. They don't say usually louder and softer. You might see the letter F or the letter P. And F stands for forte, which is loud, and piano, P stands for piano, but not the instrument. It translates into soft. And then there's an M that you can put in front of them, which means medium, but the M actually stands for mezzo. So you can have piano, soft. You can have forte. You can have medium, soft. And you can have mezzo piano. And you can have mezzo forte, medium loud. So somewhere in
Wait,
there.
you
Yep.
forgot FF, which is very loud, and crescendo.
Well, FF would correspond with PP. If you make it two Fs, it's even louder, and you could have three Fs, and I've seen four Fs. I don't remember where, it was a long time ago. And you can add more Ps to say even quieter. But the main thing is that P is soft, F is loud, and if you put an M in front of it, it's medium, whatever comes after it.
So if you have a smart board in your classroom, I've put a game that you can play with the students where you can see how quiet they can be, and also how loud if you have some noise canceling headphones that you can pop on while they are doing it.
I mentioned to you when we were chatting last week, and I didn't think to mention this, but piano is actually the short name for the instrument. When the acoustic piano was invented, it was the full name was pianoforte, because soft, loud. And that's because the keyboard instruments that came before it, the harpsichord and the clavichord, they could only play one dynamic, and it was the way it worked. It was, I think, they plucked a string instead of hitting it with a hammer that you could make go faster to make it louder. And so it only played at one volume. So one of the big deals about the piano when it was invented is that it could play soft and loud. So they called it the pianoforte. And people eventually started calling it piano.
How long has the piano been around?
Several hundred
Since
years.
before you were born? Oh, okay, just checking.
Yeah, before I was born. Well, Bach, probably the most famous of the classical composers, and usually the favorite with musicians, I think, wrote most of his music on harpsichord. And then gradually, I think by the time, forgive me teachers, but I believe by the time of Mozart, a little later, I think the piano had come into being. But the earliest classical composers, Baroque composers technically, were writing on a harpsichord, not a pianoforte.
Okay, for the next musical term, I know you have been correcting me for, I don't know, over 20 years, and I still say it wrong. I still say timbre, and it's not about cutting down trees. So instead of timbre,
Timbre. But a lot of folks say timbre, and it's fine. But it's timbre, and timbre would be the er at the end of the word, and we spell it like this right there on the screen. It's re at the end. Timbre.
right? And then we talked about coming up with a different word, so I'd stop screwing that up, didn't we?
Tone. You could.
Oh,
say
right, tone. That's much
tone.
easier. Starts with a T. Tone makes sense.
It's and we should I'll give a couple of examples, and we can also translate it into visual terms. But see, if I play this note on piano, I'm playing, the note is E in the musical scale. I should play it up here. And I'm going to grab this other instrument. This is called a melodica. If you take a melodica apart, it looks like a lot inside, like a harmonica or an accordion inside. You pushing wind through wooden reeds that would be like on the mouthpiece of a clarinet or a saxophone, and it vibrates. All sound comes from something vibrating, no matter what the instrument or sound is. Here's the same note. But there's no confusing that one is coming from a piano and the other is coming from a different instrument, the melodica. And that is the timbre of the instrument. One other example that I don't play, but I happen to have a guitar over here. And if I play, if it's still in tune, you can hear the guitar, the low E on the guitar. And then I play the same note on the piano. Oh, I guess it, down here, this E. Now, I played them for about the same duration. They're the same pitch, they're that low E. And I played them about the same volume, so the dynamic wasn't different. So the only thing that's left to make the two sounds different is their timbre, and that's the sound of the instrument. Now, if we were to translate that into visual art, then...
So we can, to talk about translating it into visual arts, you can also talk about, because I know lots of artists have this, like where their senses what we weave between themselves, right? So they can see sound,
Yeah.
And it becomes colors, right?
Yeah. What's the name of that that ability?
I'm afraid I'm going to mispronounce it. Like it was right on my tongue, and then I was like, "Oh, don't say it because you're going to say it wrong."
Is it something phasia?
Synasia.
Synthenasia.
Uh,
We've got a
I'm
THE
probably
in the middle.
mispronouncing that, but yeah.
See, we're here to learn too. So if you happen to know, you put it in the comments. Oh, and by the way, if you've got questions, we'll be answering them during the last bit after we do the last musical example.
Or if you would like a shout out. Now, it is possible, just so you know, Jim, that if the teachers are streaming from school, they may not have access to YouTube comments.
Okay. But we'll touch on some common things folks asked regardless. So, and you can put them in the, if you, I guess the YouTube chat is where I'm seeing it in different software, so I have to remember that. The note, if you were to paint, you could take 2 tubes of, let's say, oil paint, and the tubes are the same, and you've got the same amount of paint, and when the paint comes out, it feels the same. The texture of the paint is the same. And you use the same amount of paint. I guess we could call that the dynamics, how much you're putting on there, how bold you're making it. And the what would be the last thing that you would tell how would you tell two tubes of oil paint apart if it's the same size, same brand, same container, same texture, same amount of paint? There's one thing that's pretty obvious would make the two paints different, and that would be the color. Otherwise, identical, but the colors are different. So I would say that timbre, the tone of an instrument, is its color, the color of its sound. And that's actually a term that folks use quite a bit. I once heard a singer who didn't have music theory tell the drummer that for this one part of a song, she wanted more dark reds and browns, and he actually knew from the way she was describing the colors of the drums that what she was looking for was to do a little fill on the toms, on the low, not on the snare, not on the cymbals, not on the bass drum, but on the low toms. So there's a perfect example of color being used to describe music, and the musicians understood it, and everybody was quite happy with it.
So the artist that you can look up to look at that is Kandinsky, because Kandinsky painted based upon what he heard. So his paintings are a reflection of the music that he was listening to, and different colors had different shapes. There's also a really cool tool you can use in Chrome for that as well. But talking about all this color, do you have a song that has anything to do with color that could demonstrate timbre?
As a matter of fact, I have a song that mentions rainbows, so I can't think of uh, a more appropriate song. And this
Wait,
is
is it the one that was done by somebody who was a strange color?
and had a very distinct timbre to their voice. This song is from the Muppet movie from 1970. I want to say 78, but it might be 1979, and it was the possibly the first hit song made famous by a frog. It's sung by Kermit the Frog at the beginning of the movie, and it's my favorite pop song of all time. And I'm also going to demonstrate timbre. I'm going to change sounds because I have a digital piano, not an acoustic piano, which means there's a few different sounds. So I'm going to change the timbre of the piano, of the keyboard instrument, partway through. Why are there so many songs about rainbows? What's on the other side? Rainbows are visions and only illusions. And rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Or I'll change that sound. Different timbre. Who says that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it. Look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Back to the piano timbre. There you go.
I'll clap for you because I know what it's like to have to play for an audience of only icons where you can't hear anything.
I know they're there. I think everybody loves that song too.
And I wanted to mention, so I put in the slide deck this new tool I found called Tone Transfer, where you can actually record your own voice and then listen to it in the different timbres of different instruments, like if it was a bird or if it was a flute, or so it's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a very cool app website, app device.
All of the things I put in can be done via the web. I didn't put only iPad apps because not everybody has access to iPad apps, and I'm assuming if they can hear us that they have at least some access to the internet. It is, so we did well with our time, except we have no questions. So do you want me to throw out some of your common questions and then
we've done this.
Something?
We've done this a few times, and it does. We get the same question sometimes. So just to touch on some obvious ones for folks, because it looks like there is what you were talking about, that the commenting situation with the.
All right. Okay. So let's pretend. Here we go.
Okay.
Jim, how long have you been playing the piano?
I started when I was 7, and I'm 54 now. I'm 54, and I took classical lessons. I grew up in Sarnia mostly. A couple of years down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is where I first heard jazz down there as a kid. But I stuck to classical piano lessons. I did that till I was in grade 9 high school, and then later on, when I was in my early 20s, I started doing more classical lessons. And then because I wanted to audition for Humber College here in Toronto, where I am now, and then I got hooked on jazz within the first 2 weeks of studying. It was Jazz and Commercial Music was the name of the program, And I thought I was interested in the commercial music, TV music, movie music, just being a working musician. But I got hooked on jazz like that, and I've been playing jazz music ever since.
Jim, where can people hear your music if they are interested in listening to you play?
I am on my music is on the streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music. I know there's others and they always escape me. There's some on. It's definitely on YouTube. And if you look up just my name, Jim Clayton, there's a couple of albums with my kid on on the cover somewhere. And Songs My Daughter Knows is one, and that's probably my favorite. And Lenny Jumps In is another one. I have a couple of albums with a group called the Clayton Scott Group, my last name and the guitar player's last name, the Clayton Scott Group. And I can throw this in the comments too. And if you'd like to hear what I'm up to these days, I'm on Facebook a lot. And you can find me on any social media at Jim Clayton Jazz, those 3 words, or just as one word, like at Jim Clayton Jazz. And I play 5 nights a week on Facebook on the Jim Clayton Jazz page. So that's how I've been keeping in shape all through the pandemic, playing from right here and taking requests from folks because thanks to the internet, all over the world sometimes.
So this is a question that we get a lot, and I think it's really important to talk about. Um, you know, Music is obviously important in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's played a huge part of your life. But how have you been able to make a living doing what you love?
I've done well, as far if you're thinking about doing it, I would say the most important part is the stuff that's true of other professions, and in the arts. If you have to be professional, and by which I mean you've got to work at your craft and practice. But I think I probably got my first gigs because I had teachers at school that thought I was reliable. So return phone calls, return emails, return texts, show up on time, dress well for when you're performing, and I sometimes say that if it was just about being good, then here in Toronto I could name the 2 guys that would have every job in the city because they're just indisputably, to me, I think they're the best players. But it's also about being nice on the gig, being friendly with folks, respecting the audience. All the same the same things that would make you successful, and I think just about any job would apply to working in the arts.
So it's not just about being talented; it's about being willing to do the work and being a nice person. Yeah.
Yeah, I know guys that I know play not yeah, but when I say guys, I mean the royal guys. I mean musicians. That I know folks that play circles around me, honestly, and but I still work, I still manage to keep busy. So
We only have about 6 minutes left. Can you think of any other pressing questions, or do you want to play some music?
well, folks, usually at this point we get some requests for do I know? There's a long list of anime titles, and I
True.
I just wanted to put that out there that my favorite is Isabella's Lullaby from Promised Neverland, which I love because it starts off major and turns minor, and we talk about major and minor later, but. If you know that one, then you've probably seen Promise Neverland. That's one of my favorite songs, period. I actually started performing it with my jazz quartet after I heard it, using it as an intro to another song in the same key. And I can tell if it gets a reaction from the audience. I know there's other anime fans out in the audience. And I'm trying to think of other styles of music that is. Oh, that's something else. Folks have asked about what types of music, because I usually describe myself as a jazz musician, but it's jazz is an approach to music. Like the improvising is the biggest part of what makes something jazz, and other music doesn't have as much improvising. But I really like a lot of other kinds of music. The stuff that gets played most in our house here isn't necessarily jazz. The soundtrack to Hamilton, the Broadway show, was probably 50% of the listening in this house for at least a year. And there's a lot of hip hop and a lot of classic rock. And my daughter Lenny, I introduced her to Led Zeppelin when she was about 7, and she was just, I think I blew her mind a little bit. And I like a lot of the singer songwriters from the 1970s, like Jim Croce and John Denver. I have to admit, I'm fascinated by guitar. I was gifted this classical nylon string guitar not that long ago, and I find it so difficult. I'm in such awe of great guitar players because I think it's such a cool instrument. And I've been playing with my hands out straight for so long that I don't think I'm built to do this and to guitar. Yeah. Anyway,
That's another question we get. What instruments do you play? And you've already said you don't play guitar, but you do play another cool instrument.
well, I think all the instruments I play look like the piano sort of, and that's why I can get around on them. The melodica obviously looks if you can play piano and you can blow through a tube, you can play melodica. But vibraphone I don't have in this room because I don't have a place for it. It's in another room, but it looks like a big xylophone. You guys watching might have a metallophone or a xylophone or a glockenspiel, like a bell-sounding instrument that you tap, usually with mallets. And it might vibraphone. Do I have? I don't know if I actually have. I thought I had this. Oh, here, this sort of sound. That's not the worst vibraphone sound. Sounds like a xylophone. It has a motor to give it sort of the tremolo sound it basically I usually on a gig, if somebody comes up and goes, "Oh, I love your," and they say the instrument, it's almost always xylophone because it pretty much looks like a xylophone. But I love it because I can play it because the notes are laid out. The bars look like the black notes and the white notes of the piano. There's like groups of 2 and 3, same as the black notes in the top row of bars. So I know, like, oh, that's middle C, and I can hit it. But because I play it holding mallets, I have to think completely differently about how to play the instrument. So I found that a lot of fun, and it's probably most popular in jazz music. So it was
All
a good
right.
fit. Yeah.
I have kids coming back into my virtual classroom,
Okay.
putting their hands up and down, even though the bell has not virtually rung yet. So play us out with a song, Jim.
Let me do one. I'll give one quick chorus of one of my favorites. I hear down in New Orleans a lot. The home of jazz, the birthplace of jazz. All of me, why not take all of me? Can't you see I'm no good without you? Take my lips, I wanna lose them. Take my arms, I'll never use them, your goodbye left me with eyes that cry. How can I go along without you? You took the part that once was my heart. Why not take all of me? Here's one of those codas. Why not take all of me? There you go.
All right. Thank you very much, Jim. I still
And
feel
we'll
like
see.
we should
Oh, I
offer
just.
like a prize. Like if a teacher is willing to write a review, you should have to mail them a CD.
Oh, I could do that. If they have CD players, I'm happy to do
All
that.
right, they have our email address.
And we'll see a lot of folks back for part 2, the follow-up class with some different topics, a week from today at the same time.
Sounds
Oh,
good.
unless you booked the sign-up for a different day. It's
All right, and I
on.
promise I'll not script the email. All right,
Thanks for watching. Thank you,
bye.
Melissa. Have a great day. Bye-bye.